Welcome back to This Day Live, a Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. With me today, I still have Professor David Awurawo, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the University of Lagos, and Professor Anthony Killer, Professor of Strategy and Development and Director, Center for International Advanced and Professional Studies in Lagos, CIABS. Now, the crisis within Nigeria's main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, escalated this week. While internal rivalries among various party factions have simmered for some time, tensions erupted this week following acting National Chairman Umar Damagum's suspension of National Publicity Secretary Debo Ologunagba and National Legal Advisor Kamaldeen Ajibade for alleged insubordination. In retaliation, Ologunagba suspended Damagum and National Secretary Samuel Anyanwu over accusations of anti-party activities. The situation took a new turn when a federal high court in Abuja intervened, preventing any attempts to remove Damagum and Anyanwu until the PDP's National Convention in 2025. As the party navigates this turmoil, stakeholders are contemplating the establishment of a caretaker committee with the PDP Governors Forum scheduled for an emergency meeting on Monday to discuss the party's future. Also, the Supreme Court has scheduled a hearing for October 22 on a lawsuit filed by 16 state governments questioning the constitutionality of laws establishing the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and related agencies. A 7-member panel led by Justice Wani Abba Aji will hear the case after the states joined as co-plaintiffs in a suit initially filed by Kogi State's Attorney General. The states involved include Ondo, Edo, Oyo, Ogun, Nasarawa, Kebbi, Katsina, Sokoto, Jigawa, Enugu, Benue, Anambra, Plateau, Cross River, and Niger. The plaintiffs argue that the EFCC's Establishment Act contradicts the Nigerian Constitution, claiming it is null and void. They assert that the 2004 enactment did not follow necessary constitutional procedures, including approval from a majority of state houses of assembly. This argument aligns with previous Supreme Court rulings that support their position that any institution formed under these laws is illegal. Joining me right now from the Abuja studio to analyze later developments within the PDP is former legal advisor of the party, as well as a suit by 16 states of the Federation against the federal government in the matter of the EFCC, the ICPC, and the Proceeds of Crimes Act. Honorable Mark Jacob, welcome to This Day Live. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Okay, Honorable Mark Jacob, let me start from the back end. You were Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice in Kaduna State. Now let's deal with the legal issues first. Now 16 states, led by Kogi State, are saying that the EFCC is illegal, that the Financial Intelligence Unit, NFIU, is illegal, that the Proceeds of Crimes Act is illegal, that the ICPC is illegal because they are products of an international convention that was not ratified. In Nigeria, you take in international conventions, treaties, and agreements by the process of ratification and domestication, and that this is not happen with regard to these bodies that I have mentioned. And to that extent, they argue, Section 12 of the 1999 Constitution, and the matter has also been proven, the locus classicus in this case, in Nwokedi and the Federal Republic of Nigeria. What do you think? Do they have a case? The Supreme Court is going to hear this case, this matter, on October 22. Is the EFCC illegal?
Thank you very much. The argument by the states is founded on law, but there are limitations to what people or what states can argue. The convention that was used in promulgating the EFCC Act needs to be studied. And the wordings of the Secretary General of the United Nations as at 2004, Kofi Annan of blessed memory, should also be studied. The wordings, the preamble to the convention, and then the entire script that guided the promulgation of the EFCC Act should also be studied. With due respect to all the parties before the Supreme Court, I'm not in a position to preempt their justices. But just by way of commentary, it is important to know that the United Nations did not transmit a law that was enacted in Nigeria. The United Nations passed a resolution in 2003, October 2003, and advised all member states to go back to their countries and promulgate laws that would encompass and enshrine the resolutions of the United Nations. And most of the issues contained in the resolution, in the convention, were that, look, we need a transnational legislation that can help in tackling corruption. Since corruption had become a transnational issue, it was no longer localized. There should be a legislation that allows, for example, the transmission or the return of monies or wealth or funds that are illegally acquired from other countries into your country. For instance, if people corruptly get money from America, it should not be difficult for those monies to be returned to America and to Americans who were defrauded by maybe the criminals in Nigeria. And it is one of those things that the convention contained. So the United Nations did not in any way transmit a legislation. There was a resolution, and Nigeria is part of that, was part of that resolution. And all countries, all member states of the United Nations were advised to go back to their home countries and promulgate domestic laws that would encapsulate all the resolutions of the United Nations at that meeting. So the difference that may arise when you come to interpret the domestication of laws from outside Nigeria is that there was no specific law that was transmitted to Nigeria for enforcement or for adoption. There was a convention, yes. It was a resolution, and Nigeria was part of the resolution. And all other countries were advised to enact their own laws or their own legislation that would contain the spirit and the letter of the resolution of the United Nations, which was done. So for me, talking from outside and without the privilege of seeing the entire argument, I have seen the snippets of the suit that is pending before the Supreme Court. But the little I can say is that, yes, the EFCC Act was given birth to as a result of that decision at the United Nations. But there was no specific law, no letter was drafted, nothing was drafted and given to Nigeria for domestication.
Okay, well, I got your point. Section 12 of the 1999 Constitution is clear. It says, you know, for you to domesticate treaties and agreements, international conventions, it must be endorsed by, you know, a majority of the houses of assembly in Nigeria. So in other words, you are saying affirmatively that we didn't follow that process. But I recall that the EFCC was perhaps a product of expediency. Expediency in the sense that the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force, at the time the Obasanjo administration was there, had blacklisted Nigeria. And Nigeria had become a pariah within the international financial system. And then the Obasanjo government had to move very quickly to set up these structures to show that Nigeria took the challenge of corruption seriously. Do you think that Kogi State and other states jumping onto this bandwagon of legalism is a case of corruption fighting back? After all, the state governors, past, present, and future, will not want anybody to come and be looking into their books. Is this a case of corruption fighting back?
Absolutely, Dr. Abate, there is no doubt that corruption is fighting back and will continue to fight back. I remember during the era of the former governor of Delta State, and when his case was ongoing, his case came up in the Federal High Court in Kaduna. I was there physically. And people came and were chanting that the man thief money, but not be Nigeria money, not Delta State money. Why not they disturb him? So that kind of approach, that money that has been appropriated to the states belongs to the states, and that the federal government should not be the one supervising or looking at how those monies are expended. That argument has been on, but it has not been founded on sincerity. Most of the argument has been founded and established upon a threshold of making sure that people can do whatever they want with funds. And since the agencies at their disposal at their state level cannot raise any questions about them, the people believe that they should be allowed to do as they wish. But is that the kind of country we want to sustain? Is that the kind of system we want? That a governor, simply because funds have been appropriated to him from the federation account. And that's the irony. Most of the monies that the governors are fighting to keep are monies that are appropriated to them from FAC, the federation account. So if you don't want to be scrutinized, if you don't want anybody to be breathing on your neck, maybe you should refuse to collect the monies. But you can't take the money from the federation account and turn around and say that the federal government should not have power to supervise or oversee or question your usage of those monies. It doesn't stand well, and it should not be allowed to stand.
Okay.
So truly, most of the argument today is founded on protectionism of what people are doing and what they want to do with state resources. Kogi State especially, where the governor, the former governor, is on the run, even though he has appeared and he entered the lion's den and came out. He's the second Daniel in the history of the world.
Okay, the rub of it is transparency, accountability, and good governance. That's the rest of this matter. But what is likely to happen without prejudice to what their lordships are likely to decide in this matter? And I said it, without prejudice. What do you think is likely to happen? Will the Supreme Court scrap these agencies and then we're back to square one? Or the federal government would then say, okay, this treaty, this agreement, let us ratify it. Do you see a prospect of the majority of the states in line with Section 12 saying, yes, we want transparency, we want accountability, we want oversight from the Financial Intelligence Unit?
You know, Dr. Abate, I'm not allowed to preempt the Supreme Court. But if we talk just as discussions here,
yeah, this is a matter.
Personally,
this matter is important in the public interest. This is a public interest issue. Even their lordships
now in the public
will not
interest,
argue against public interest law.
Their lordships cannot. They cannot throw their hands in the air and say that we'll go into the stricter censored interpretation, the strict interpretation of legislations or the Constitution, to say that because there was no domestication, that everything good that has come out of the EFCC should be thrown to the gutter. I don't believe that should happen. The EFCC and other institutions, agencies of government that have been set up to curb and fight corruption have done quite a lot. And whether we accept it or not, the truth remains that the EFCC, ICPC, NFIU have done a lot, not just to curb corruption, but to help Nigeria build a better image across the world. Because in the past, people just did whatever they wanted, and nobody was in a position to question them. And the way things are happening today, if there is no EFCC, I don't know how we'll be able to curb the excesses of people in government. Because today, one person can take the entire budget of the state and take off and put it in his pocket and nothing. And of course, nobody in the state, no agency of the state in that place will question him. And that is what people are agitating for, that they should be allowed to just do what they want without any supervision, without any superior power breathing down their neck. And a society like that is alien and it's not supposed to exist.
Okay, Honorable Jacobs, let's talk about your party, the People's Democratic Party. You were legal advisor of that same party at a time. Now, the party, people have been saying is in disarray. Now it's become factionalized. Ambassador Iya Damagum, the National Legal Advisor, Ajibade SAN, the spokesperson, Debo Ologunagba, have been asked to step aside. Now, some other officers have been asked to step aside. The Federal High Court has waded into the matter. People's Democratic Party. And they are saying, oh, indiscipline. The same party that could not address the issue of the indiscipline of Nyesom Wike and members of the G5 are suddenly woken up to say, oh, Damagum must go. And in any case, you know the details. Don't let me bore you with the details. What is wrong with the People's Democratic Party?
First of all, let me say, I've said it on this platform before, that indiscipline begets irresponsibility. And that is exactly what we are running into. When people threw away their oath of office and started acting for themselves alone, without reference to the interest of the generality of the members of the party, this thing was bound to happen. And we can see it is not magic, it is not a difficult thing to see. The truth remains that this current NWC has done the worst that anybody has ever done to the PDP, where clearly constitutional provisions have been taken down the drain and people have behaved as if they are not bound by any law. People have personalized the positions they occupy. Otherwise, why would anybody who was made acting chairman begin to see himself and even speak and begin to arrogate to himself the office? He said, nobody can take away my office. Which office? Acting. The words are very clear. You are just an acting personality. And it is supposed to be a temporary thing. The North Central zone of the party has been cheated. For all the months that Damagum has stayed in that office, he has usurped the office of the North Central zone of the party. And he knows it. But he has continued to sustain himself there for personal gain and nothing more. And it's a shame. The other members of the NWC, who initially played aloof or played along and refused to raise eyebrows, have, thank God, have woken up to their responsibility. And I thank God that at least within, there are people who are now saying, no, this is enough. Stop all this. The party cannot be messed up this much. The National Secretary, for instance, went and contested the election and still came back to be National Secretary against the spirit and letter of the Constitution of the PDP. And nothing seemed to have happened. And he's there. Even when there are court judgments or court orders, counter, and that is also the other issue that bothers me. The Supreme Court, in the case of Jekete and other cases, has made it very clear that the issues of leadership of political parties are internal domestic affairs of the political party, and that they are a no-go area for the courts. But you find the Federal High Court, particularly in Abuja, every day, spewing out one order or the other. And I don't know. Is it that they are unaware of the existence of the position of the Supreme Court and the courts of appeal? Repeatedly, there are over 10, so many cases that the Supreme Court and the courts of appeal have continued to say the issues of leadership of political parties, the issue of membership, the issue of primaries, they are internal domestic affairs of the political party. So how The federal high courts and high courts wake up every day, take ex parte applications, and grant those ex parte applications against the judgments, existing judgments, not rulings, judgments of the Supreme Court. How they do this is quite embarrassing. And they are the ones that are messing up the judiciary, messing up the political parties, because without some of these court orders, people will learn to respect their party constitution. People will learn to seek to do what is right, knowing that they cannot run to any high court or any court for that matter and get ex parte orders. It's not correct. It's wrong. And what is happening in the PDP, and at this stage, let me condole the current secretary of the BOT who lost his son yesterday, Elijah McCarthy. May the Lord grant you solace. But truly, sir, it is now that the BOT must take its position, call everybody to order, and get the attention of party members to, for once, look at the constitution of the party and do what is right. Otherwise, there will be no PDP in the next few months. This kind of situation can only exist when there are no structures. But PDP has structures, for God's sake. We have the BOT, we have the NEC, we have Governors Forum, we have the Forum of former National Working Committee members. We have several bodies that can steer the party in the right direction. But individuals, not up to 20 of them, have taken this party captive and have messed it up to the level that it looks like a primary school association. Okay, Honorable, which is incapable of managing its affairs. It's terrible. Honorable Jacobs, very terrible. I've heard you. Now, but I would like to draw your attention to the promise by Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, now CJN of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who said that, look, all kinds of misconduct by persons within the judiciary, on the bench, or maybe outside the bench, the bar, will not be condoned. And now we have critical cases. The High Court's giving ex parte orders as if they are giving biscuits to children as Father Christmas. Courts of coordinate and equal jurisdiction, issuing all kinds of orders contradicting themselves, as we have seen in Rivers State. Do you think that Justice Kekereekun will be able to keep to our promise and still ensure discipline? There's also the unresolved matter of Rivers State, where the Court of Appeal has said that the governor of Rivers State, Fubara, has been running an illegal budget presented to 4 lawmakers instead of in accordance with Section 91 of the 1999 Constitution. Do you think that the chairperson of the National Judicial Council will be able to bring an end to this chaos in the Nigerian judiciary? Certainly, the current CJN has the capacity to instill discipline and to make things work properly. I've read some of her judgments. I have appeared before her in the past. And I know that she is not one of these people you can take for granted. She's very unassuming, but she is very strict. So I expect that she will clean up the system. Look, it is not difficult to see where the problem arises with the judiciary. We can count and we can point fingers at judges that have become used to delving into politics, using their position, their hallowed position
Please go ahead. I can hear you.
People who, okay, we can name names of judges who have converted their position to political positions, where politicians rush to them whenever they have issues, and they are ready to grant orders ex parte, and then knowing very well that there are subsisting Supreme Court and Court of Appeal judgments against such behavior. So it's not difficult, and it should not be difficult for the current CJN to use the big stick. It's very easy because these things are done publicly. I saw somewhere yesterday, and I felt very sad, that somebody just comically said that a lot of business ideas have passed through his head, and one of them is that he wants to open a federal high court. I said, look at how we have reduced ourselves. Yes, that things are so hard, but now he has very many business ideas. One of them is for him to open a federal high court. In this country, that the judiciary should become a laughingstock like that. Because the Federal High Court, particularly in Abuja, has become a shopping ground for all manner of orders. And even when there is a public outcry, the next day they will issue another order. I don't know where they live, and I don't know where they listen, whether they care to listen to public opinion. Of course, they are not supposed to be guided or ruled by public opinion, but it should matter when you are on the wrong track. Particularly, like I keep saying, that there are existing Supreme Court authorities stopping our lower courts from delving into granting this kind of orders that have to do with leadership of political parties, membership of political parties. The internal domestic affairs of political parties are a no-go area for the high courts, for the courts in Nigeria. So it beats my imagination that despite the existence of those very sound decisions of the Supreme Court, high courts keep on issuing orders, keep on removing this one, and even surprisingly saying that the organs of the party should not remove somebody. On what basis? Are the high courts now members of the political party to determine who will rule them? Federal high courts that have so much work, so many criminal matters are pending. People are languishing in prison. Political parties will be given accelerated hearing, while cases of people who are maybe innocent, in fact, they are deemed to be innocent, languishing in prison for years without a date for hearing. But the political cases will be given accelerated hearing.
Okay, Honorable.
So this country needs a lot of help.
Okay.
And the CJN has a lot of work to do, but it's a very simple job.
Okay. Honorable Mark Jacob, on that note, I would like to thank you very much. Well, you never know. Nigerians are very creative people. Maybe the idea of setting up the business of federal high courts, if people set up federal high courts, maybe that will become very lucrative. You know, after all, we are all looking for money in the midst of inflation. In fact, you may find some people bringing proposals to you. Let us set up one federal high court or a state high court where, you know, injunction can be issued out, you know, generously. Anyway, I would like to thank you very much for joining us on this Live, this Sunday Talk Show.